Ha ha ha, welcome my little ghouls. Step right up because the night is young but the grave is always open. Tonight we peer into the black heart of human terror. We shall drag you to the mud of fear and lock you tight in the damp, decaying crypt, all served up from the deepest, darkest vault. So sit back, hold your breath, and try not to scream too loudly, because you're watching Essa Tonight, Tales from the Vault of Fear.
Happy Halloween Eve, Second Life Horrors. I'm Felix Lubezki, your Vault Keeper. Well, it's time for another frightening tale from the Vault of Horror. As usual, I'm just dying to begin, so turn out the lights and take a deep breath. The blood curdler I'm about to tell is certain to have you on the edge of your seat, shuddering in absolute terror. Hang on to your normality, or this one will really have you hanging on the ropes. I call it Whirlpool. Her mind was whirling again, the three horrid creatures towering threateningly over her, hovering in the black abyss, and their questions echoed and thundering in her ears, drowning her cries and shrieking for help. What's your name? Who are you? Who are you? What's your name? Who? Name? Who are you? What's your name? Who? She couldn't remember things. Who was she? What was she doing here? What was her name? 100 questions, and she couldn't answer. She didn't know anymore. She didn't remember. Still, the vicious things tormented her. She cowered and turned her eyes from the leering faces. She swirled, floated, thrashed desperately in nothingness to get away, to escape. And suddenly she saw the window and went crashing through it. She ran through the deserted, silent street, the clicking of her heels urging her to go. Faster, faster. They were after her, following with cruel questions, their shrill, screaming voices. Would she ever elude them? She pounded on doorways to gain entrance. She cried. She ran again. Faster. And the street seemed almost endless. But suddenly there was an end, and there was nowhere else to go. Another building barred her way. A building with no windows, just a door. She scrambled to the steps, stumbling and crying. She shouted and pleaded for someone to help her, clawing and pounded frantically on the door. They were almost upon her. She heard their screeching, and she pressed back into the shadows up against the massive door, and through it. She couldn't remember. She was sprawled to the floor, shaking her head, trying to clear the cobwebs. She was still crying, still trembling, but she had escaped through those awful things. She felt the hand touch her. Rough hands dragging her to her feet. Through a veil of tears, she stared into the blazing eyes of a fiend who lifted her, squirming and kicking into his arms. His laughter reached a nerve-wracking pitch as he carried her across the room and dropped her into a cauldron of boiling water. Searing pains engulfed her. Boiling water burned her mouth, scalded her throat every time she cried out, and she thrashed torrentially, trying to climb out. Suddenly, strong arms lifted her from the cauldron. Her flesh was beet red and steam issuing from her softened body. She couldn't stand upright. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. She felt herself being lifted, then lowered. Through a dim, semi-conscious haze, she felt the coolness surrounding her, completely covering her, slowly drawing the heat from her. It became cooler, and she opened her eyes, and then it was cold. It was much too cold. She was surrounded by ice. She screamed again and again. The hardening ice numbed her arms, her legs. She couldn't free herself, and she cried. Convulsively, the teardrops froze in her vision gazed. She felt the painful tinging in her toes, heard the shrill, fiendish laughter fading. Mercifully, she fainted. Why couldn't she remember anything? Who was she? Why were they torturing her? What did they want? Why didn't they leave her alone? 1,000 questions that she couldn't answer. She opened her eyes, tried to move, couldn't. There was a sharp pain. Another, and another. She saw a wicked old lady bending over her, chuckling. A long, needle-sharp hat pin was in her hand, and she was jabbing. Would there be no end to this? Would no one save her? Again she tried to scream, but only a strangled sob erupted. The jabbing continued. She felt warm blood trickle. Was that blood? And every part of her throbbed and ached. Her head was a whirlpool of torture. And the jabbing ceased. She opened her eyes. A tall, silent man was nearby, staring with angered eyes at the wicked old lady. He raised his arm, pointed his finger, and the lady hurriedly left the room. The man untied her hands and feet, gently helped her from the table. She tried to speak, to thank him, but only garbled, unintelligible sobs spewed forth. Strong, tender hands caressed her hair and face, while grateful, happy tears spilled down her cheeks. He rested her head on his chest protectively and nodded in understanding. Yet he did not speak. But what did it matter? He had saved her, hadn't he? Wasn't he kind, gentle? Without a word, he helped her across the room, lowered her easily into a chair. Rest, blessed rest. She closed her eyes and leaned her back against the chair. She knew this wasn't just a nightmare. The pain, the terror had all been too real. If only she could remember how, or why it started. She felt something clamp down on her wrist. Tiredly, she opened her eyes and screamed. She was strapped in an electric chair. Nearby, the silent man was grinning insanely. His every feature was contorted into a triumphant expression of maniacal glee. How he had fooled her. She pleaded and begged for his salvation until his hand gripped the lever and pulled. Thousands of volts slammed through her body, tearing and burning and destroying flesh, bone, tissue, thousands of volts pulsating, coursing through every fiber of her being, making her torso surge and strain at the straps that held her. Blackness, painless, tortureless blackness, the emptiness becoming something, solidity. A floor? Yes, she was lying on a floor somewhere, and the empty void became solid walls. 4 solid walls, a ceiling and a floor, but no way out. She struggled to her feet and groped around the small room, feeling, tapping the walls. Was this the end? Was this death? Wait, was her mind playing tricks on her? Was she seeing things? No, the room was getting smaller. Smaller. Slowly on all sides, the walls moved closer together. The ceiling lowered and the sides narrowed. She stretched out her arms to keep them away. There was no use. The walls closed further, and she exerted all her strength. Pressure became more intense. She gasped for air, and pushed and hammered the walls, screaming till the reverberations hurt her eardrums. And still the walls pressed closer. She could no longer stand upright. She slumped to one knee, crying, choking, feeling the immense pressure squeeze and crush her. Did a bone snap? Her head throbbed horribly, reeling and aching. And when she could stand no more, release. She lay gasped and trembling on the floor. A bright light invaded the room's darkness, and in its brilliance a man stood in the open doorway. He helped her to her feet, comfortably led her down the long, clean-smelling corridors. What was going to happen now? His words were so soothing, but could she trust him? How could she know? Where was she bringing her? She was almost too weak to care. She was in a room, warm and comfortable. 3 nice men surrounded her, gave her soft words of consolation. They were friendly, she could trust them. She cried because it was all over. It was awful. They were all trying to kill me. The electric chair, boiling cauldron, the walls. It was awful, awful. There, we want to help you. Suppose you tell us all about it. They were so nice. She related her harrowing experiences. The tears of relief flowed down her face, and they listened attentively. It was so wonderful not to be afraid. My mind is so clear now. For a while, I thought I was going insane. Of course, we understand. Gradually, her crying ceased. She was not afraid anymore. She had no reason to be afraid now. Only one thing bothered her. Why? Why did they all want to hurt me so? Why? It's quite simple. I'll try to explain. All this torture has been in your mind. It never really happened as you thought. Subconsciously, your mind twisted everyday occurrences into horrible tortures. You imagined that people were trying to kill you, when actually they were trying to help you. For instance, you said you were put in an electric chair. Actually, one of our attendants was giving you electrotherapy, a form of shock treatment. And the wicked old lady who jabbed you with a hat pin while you were strapped to a table was only your abnormal interpretation of the nurse giving you a hypodermic injection while you were in a straitjacket. necessitated by your display of violence. The boiling cauldron and the ice were really nothing but hot and cold baths, another form of shock treatment. The Poe-like room whose walls closed upon you was a padded cell. Solitary confinement, because you had become so irrational. The walls didn't crush you, you only thought so because the small room was so confining. I don't believe you. You're lying to me. You're trying to hurt me. Oh, what am I doing here? Where am I? You mean you still don't remember? My dear, you're an inmate in an insane asylum. Suddenly, the room grew dim, hazy. Oh, I remember. You're persecuting me. We're trying to help you. Do you remember your name? The room faded away, and the three doctors seemed to hover in a gray mist, growing darker. Try hard now. Tell us who you are. Yes, who are you? What's your name? It was difficult to think. Her mind was jumbled. Some thoughts wouldn't organize themselves into meanings. Name. Who are you? What's your name? What's your name? Who are you? Who? Mind was whirling again. The three horrid creatures towered threateningly over her, hovering in a black abyss, and their questions echoed and thundered in her ears, drowning her cries and shrieks for help. What's your name? Who are you? Who are you? What's your name? What's your name? Who are you? Who are you? Name? She couldn't remember things. Who was she? What was she doing here? What was her name? 100 questions and she couldn't answer. She didn't know anymore. She didn't remember. Still, the vicious things tormented her. She cowered and turned her eyes from their leering faces. She swirled, floated, thrashed desperately in the nothingness to get away, to escape. And suddenly, she saw the window and went crashing through it. Right back where we started, eh? Round and around she goes, and where she stops, who the devil cares? Of course, she never did go through any window. It was only her way of trying to escape from the fact that she was deranged. I hope I made that painfully clear. Well, as usual, the crypt keeper's clamoring for attention, so eyes him right before he has a temper tantrum already. Greetings, schools. Let's drink blood pools. This is your host in the Crypt of Terror, the Crypt Keeper, ready to lead another scream session by narrating one of the nauseating novelettes from my creepy collection of lurid literature. So hold on to your last meal. Here goes with the foul fable I call Out of His Head. The faint wisp of smoke curled upward from the dancing fire and drifted lazily over the campsite. Alex slipped from the tent, a gleaming cleaver in his gloved hand. The perspiration painting his face glowed in the firelight. He grimaced. Stanley knelt before the flames, stirring the smoke-blackened pot. In a moment, it would be all over. In a moment, Stanley would be dead, and Alex's problem would be solved. He moved forward noiselessly, lifting the razor-sharp cleaver high over his head. The stew will be done in a minute, Alex. Smells delicious. Everything ready? Everything's ready, Stanley. Stanley stiffened. Alex's high-pitched voice exploded behind him. He whirled, too late. Alex brought the gleaming cleaver down with all his force. Alex! My God! Ah! It was quiet in the woods that surrounded the hunter's camp. Far away in the night, an owl hooted. Alex stared down at Stanley, crouching as if stunned. The cleaver sunk deep in his head, the handle jutting upward awkwardly. Alex hesitated. A wave of nausea sweeping over him. Stanley just crouched there as if frozen. Not standing, not falling, just staring at him with dead, glassy eyes that seemed to burn with the flame of sudden understanding. Die already! Fall down and die! The horror of it. The cleaver sticking upward, the blood curtaining down over the frozen, surprised face. Alex turned away, covered his eyes. He would remember it always, the horror of it, behind him. He heard Stanley's body slump to the damp ground. Oh, Lord, Lord. The horrendous deed was done. Loath to gaze upon the bloody remains of his former law partner, Alex moved into the tent, picked up his gun and the knapsack he packed previously, and strode out of camp. I'm rid of him for good. Everything's mine now. No one knows we were up here together. They'll think he was attacked by a maniac. He traveled swiftly through the woods, finally reaching his car. The gun in the knapsack and his hunting clothes, including the shoes that had left telltale tracks around the camp, were carefully disposed of. Alex dumped them into a river on his way home. There, now to drive back to the city and sneak into the apartment. Alex arrived at his apartment building towards morning. He slipped back in the same way he'd left, through the cavernous catacomb-like cellar, When he reached his penthouse door, he quietly lifted the Do Not Disturb sign from the knob. Perfect. My alibi is perfect. I've been in my apartment since yesterday afternoon. I'd felt ill and I didn't even go with Stanley on his hunting trip. Alex smiled. It had been so simple. He slipped the key in the lock and turned it quietly. The door swung open. Alex stepped in. The dawn light was just beginning to filter through the huge French doors leading out onto the balcony. Now to get him dressed and ring down for breakfast. Someone's out there on the balcony. Good Lord! The silhouette on the balcony moved towards the French doors. The early morning sunlight gleamed on the steel blade of the cleaver stuck in its head. My God, Stanley, no, no! Fear and revulsion pounded down into Alex's heaving stomach. He lifted his clenched fist to his mouth, closed his eyes, and screamed. When he opened his eyes, the figure on the balcony was gone. Alex stared out at where it had been, sick, trembling. It's all in my imagination. Stanley's dead. He's back upstate, deep in the woods. I'm seeing things. There was a pounding on the front door. Alex spun round. A voice drifted through. You all right, Mr. Melton? I'm fine, Sammy. I was having a bad dream. I just woke up. Will you have my breakfast sent up? Alex listened to the footsteps of the house porter padding way down the hall. He hurried towards the bedroom. Got to get in my pajamas. Quickly. Oh, Lord, no! The figure stood in the center of the bedroom floor, his glassy eyes staring out from the blood-covered face, the cleaver sticking awkwardly out from its rent skull. No, I won't. Look, I won't. Alex covered his eyes, shutting out the horrible sight, and when he opened them again, the figure was gone. That's better. I've got to pull myself together. My nerves are shot. Alex undressed quickly and slipped into his pajamas. He just finished buttoning them when the knock on the door announced Sammy's return. Merry Christmas, Mr. Melton. Okay, Sammy, just 1 minute. Alex slipped into her dressing robe and opened the door. What the... What's the matter, Mr. Melton? The figure stood behind Sammy, grinning, its eyes wide and burning. Its head tilted crazily as if the cleaver embedded there was too heavy. Alex closed his eyes, turning away. I said, what's the matter, Mr. Melton? Nothing, Sammy, nothing. Just wheel it over there to the couch, eh? After the house porter left, Alex sat down and stared at the unappetizing food. There was no hunger in him, no desire to eat. He'd only ordered the food to establish his alibi. He retched and looked away. Oh God, no, not again. It stood there, bloody, swaying, its eyes bulging, its teeth bared in a death grin. Go away, oh Lord! Alex jammed his eyes shut. When he opened them, the apparition was gone. I've got to have a drink. I'm a nervous wreck. He staggered across the huge, luxurious living room to the well-appointed bar. The gurgling whiskey poured into the glass sounded like a distant laughter. It's all in my mind. I keep seeing what isn't there. As he lifted the glass to his lips, the figure stood before him, grotesque, appalling, sickening. No! The liquor bottle smashed on the polished hardwood floor. Alex shut his eyes. You're not there. I don't really see you. He opened his eyes. The figure grinned at him stupidly. Bloody, the shiny cleaver wedged deep in its skull. Oh God, go away. Leave me alone. He shut his eyes again, shutting out the awful sight. I won't look. I won't. You can't make me. 1 minute passed. 2. Alex opened one eye. Good Lord, it's still there. He clamped the eyes shut again. With his eyes shut, he couldn't see the horrible sight. With his eyes shut, he was free of it. He waited. After a while, I'll settle down. It'll go away. A drink. I need a drink. Turned with eyes shut to the bar, feeling for a glass, a bottle, knocking them over, spilling, smashing. Finally, in desperation, he opened his eyes. The figure was behind the bar now, smirking at him. Yeah! It was torture for him, trying to move about with shut eyes, trying to find his cigarettes, a match, trying to satisfy his cravings. He couldn't help opening his eyes. And when he did, the figure was always there. Finally, a blindfold. I'll fool him. I'll show him I can beat him. There. He sat with the blindfold over his eyes, sat all morning and in the afternoon. Sammy came and went, Alex refusing lunch. He staggered around the apartment. Where are those blasted cigarettes? He felt the cigarette urn pitch over, drop to the floor. He went to his hands and knees, feeling for them, cursing, reaching, not finding one. Finally, he tore the blindfold from his eyes. No! The figure was there, lying on the floor, grinning up at him. No, no, I'll show you! He got to his feet, stumbled towards the kitchen. The figure stood before him, barring his way. I'll show you! Whenever he looked the figure, he rummaged through the kitchen drawers. You can't make me see you! He found what he was looking for, lifted in a white-knuckled trembling fist. An ice pick. If I'm blind! The pain, the screaming, unbearable pain of plunging the ice pick first into one, and then into the other, and the welcome darkness that followed. Sandy's face blanched white. Then he saw Alex kneeling on the kitchen floor, blood pouring down his cheeks like crimson tears. Good Lord! Alex must have fainted after that. Swallowed up into his self-imposed darkness, he floated in it, hearing the faint scream of a distant siren, the muttering of subdued voices, the sound of a motor, the sweet smell of anesthetic. And then, an eternity later, he felt hands touching him, moving about his blind eyes, unwrapping bandages. There we are. No, no! He could see again. God, they'd made him see. They made him repair his stabbed and bleeding eyes, and he could make out the figure before him, dim, hazy, swaying with a gleaming object sticking out of the center of its head. Oh, Lord, no! Stanley. He would always see Stanley. There would be no escape. Never. Here in this hospital room, Stanley was staring at him, the meat cleavers shining in the rent skull. Alex leaped from the bed. Wait! There's another way, Stanley, another way! The splintering of glass, the fading scream, the thud of a body rupturing and smashing into solid concrete 12 stories below. Alex had solved his problem. The figure with the shining object in the center of its head moved to the window and looked down. The sunlight glinted upon his head reflector as the doctor showed sadly. Mad. Absolutely mad. So that's my yarn, kiddies. Alex finally got rid of Stanley for good, by getting rid of himself. Ditto. Anybody want to buy a splattered corpse? There's one outside City Hospital. Nope. How about one with a cleaver in its head, upstate, near a camping site? There's no? Cheapskates. Well, this is CK turning back to VK, okay? Here's a sweet dare tale with an appetizing wind-up. An ample sample. Irwin slammed the front door of his house with a grunt of satisfaction and stepped out into the teeming downpour that plummeted earthward from the black heavens overhead. The raindrops splashed, concentric rings in the rapidly forming puddles, waterfalled off the bowed-leaved shrubbery, streamed down Irwin's face, creating the illusion that he was crying, as if tears were overflowing from his eyes. Actually, if you looked closely at Irwin, you couldn't really tell. He carried a saw and hammer in his hands. Irwin crossed the front lawn and slashed up the steps to protection of the porch of the house next door. He rang the bell. Why, Irwin, you're soaking wet. You didn't have to return those things tonight. I wanted to, Bert. I've finished. Care to see what I made? Irwin's neighbor hesitated. Well, Irwin, I'd like to, but the rain. I couldn't it wait till tomorrow? All right, Bert, tomorrow. Irwin turned to go. Bert put out his hand, touching Irwin's arm. Hold on, Irwin. Don't feel bad. I'll come over as soon as the rain lets up. Will you, Bert? Swell. I'll wait here with you. Irwin pushed past Bert onto the living room and sat down. Bert looked at him. There was something strange about Irwin tonight, something different. How's Hannah, Irwin? Hannah? Why, she's fine. Irwin turned away so that Bert wouldn't see that the drop was running down his cheek with real tears this time. What's wrong, Irwin? You're not yourself tonight. What's bothering you? Bert, Irwin sighed and sat back in his chair. His face seemed to cloud up dark, and his eyes had a faraway look about them. Will you listen, Bert? Will you listen to the whole story? Go ahead, old man. Get it off your chest. You'll feel better. Irwin's voice was full of sadness of long-ago memories and old souvenirs packed away in dusty boxes and dark attics. It was touched with the sadness of lost youth and a fading summer, when leaves dry and fall from graying trees. Let me tell you about Hannah, Bert. Let me tell you about Hannah you never knew, the Hannah I married 10 years ago. She was thin then, Bert. Yes, it's hard to believe, but she was. She wasn't the most beautiful creature on earth, but neither was I the most handsome, and I loved her. I remember our wedding. We are gathered here under the sight of God to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony. And as I remember the delightful 3-day honeymoon we spent at Atlantic City, it almost took all my savings. I love it here, Irwin. Too bad we have to get back tomorrow, Hannah, honey. Maybe I never should have gotten married on so little money, Bert. Maybe I should have waited. The little I had left went for the first month's rent for the house next door. Like it, Hannah? It's very nice, Irwin. I was making $30 a week back then, Bert. Of course, in those days a couple could get along on that. They spent it wisely. But Hannah developed a vice a short time after we were married. Candy. Have some, Irwin. Try these. They're delicious. Hannah, this box of candy must have cost $2. You know we can't afford it. Maybe it was all my fault, Bert. Maybe the candy Hannah craved was a substitute for craving hers that I, as her husband, couldn't satisfy. Anyway, she kept buying it, box after box. Hannah, another box of candy? But you just bought one 3 days ago. Look, Irwin, isn't this a wonderful idea? It's a Whiteman sample box. See, there's a diagram on the box cover. It tells you what kind of candy each one is. But Hannah is so expensive. Watch, Irwin, the diagram says this one's caramel, so I bite into it and see, caramel. You don't even have to guess. Oh, Hannah. The more I objected, the more candy Hannah devoured. That's how she got so fat, Bert, eating candy. Hannah, I needed some socks. My old ones are falling apart. I put some money in this sugar bowl. What happened to it? I'll spend it, Irwin. It got so bad, Hannah began to take money that we needed for necessities and spend it on her blasted candy. Another Whiteman sample box? What's this, third this week? They're my favorite. You don't know the anguish I went through, Bert. Hannah gained more and more weight. Remember when you moved in? It ain't Bert. Irwin's my name, and that's my wife, Hannah. You never knew that Hannah had once been thin and attractive, did you, Bert? I never told you. I was too ashamed. Have one, Bert. Just pick one out what you like from the diagram. No thanks, Hannah. I'm on a diet. Nice having you as our new neighbor, Bert. Did you know I wore the same shabby overcoat for 7 years, Bert, because I couldn't afford to buy a new one? Hannah, you got to stop this. We're spending almost $10 a week on candy. I like it. What else have I got in life? I need a new overcoat, Hannah. Winter's coming on and there's no warmth left in mine. Save up out of your lunch money, Buster. I take care of my needs out of my allowance. You take yours out of yours. But I give you my whole salary, Hannah. I only get $3 a week for car fare and lunch money. Eat smaller lunches. She was unreasonable, Bert. When I got my raise, I didn't tell her. I couldn't. I was wearing shirts with frayed collars, ties that wouldn't dry clean, worn out shoes. I saved the extra $5 I got each week and hid it from her. Hannah! She found the money, Bert. Today, while I was at work, she found it. $25. $25 that I was saving for clothes. Clothes I need badly, and she spent it. All of it. She bought 4 5-pound Whiteman sample boxes, Bert. 4 of them. Hannah, how could you? I'm set for 2 weeks, Irwin. I saw red, Bert. Something happened to me. I felt funny and my heart started racing wildly and there was a heat in my body that rushed madly around, burning outwardly in my hands. My face. I looked at the half-finished Whiteman sample box with its diagram, and the other boxes, and Irwin, don't look at me like that. Hannah? Hannah? Irwin's voice trailed off into a choking sob. Bert shifted uncomfortably, waiting. There was a moment of silence. Irwin, what do you need the hammer for? The saw. I made something, Bert. Something for Hannah. Bert shivered. He felt suddenly frightened. The fear swept over him, turning his stomach into a tight knot of apprehension. That's blood on your shirt, Irwin. Uh-huh. Irwin stared out at the wet streets. The rain had stopped. I murdered her, Bert. Hannah, I murdered her. Irwin stood up. The rain stopped, Bert. You promised you'd come see what I made. Irwin, Erwin walked to the door. Bert hesitated, then followed. It's a box, Bert. Big box. Sample box. They walked in silence across the wet grass. Erwin flung open the front door. See? It was a sample box, all right. Just like the Whiteman sample boxes Hannah loved so dearly. Only this box was too huge to hold candy. This box was just right for the gory samples it did hold. And the diagram crudely scrawled on the inside of each open cover identified and denoted the exact location of each segment of Hannah's dismembered and dissected body. And that's my sweet story for this issue, kiddies. Erwin's in a padded cell now, picking the buttons off the padding and popping them into his mouth. And with each one, he screams, "Colonel!" But the guards just peer in through the little glass window in the door, making sure he's not choking to death, and shake their heads. They never saw a guy so crazy over candy. Now the old witch awaits for their gruesome rule. I can smell it from here, so droops, attention, hold nose, eyes right. So it's wind-up time at GK's Mag again, and I'm the gal that can do it up round, so welcome to the Haunt of Fear, fiends. This is your Keats Cook, the old witch, ready with another reeking recipe. Hungry for horror? Go. Then feast on the yarn I call Funereal Disease. On nights when the wind swept over the Fairchild estate and screamed through the trees and whistled across the luxurious main house, when its chill crept into the age-riddled bones, warning him of an approaching inevitable death, old Jasper Milliken would sit in his sparsely furnished gardener's cottage and count the neat stack of wrinkled bills that he'd saved throughout his life. 4,950, 4,960, 4,970. Only $30 more to go, and Mr. Fairchild owes me more than that already. But on one particular night, while old Jasper the gardener smiled and sighed and fondled and admired his savings, and thought about the lifelong dream his money would finally fulfill, his employer, Niles Fairchild, sat at his desk in a huge book-lined library in the main house and listened to the sad voice of his personal accountant, Tom Kelton. That's the story, Niles. Your mortgage to the hill. They'll all refuse you more credit until you pay what you owe. You're facing bankruptcy, a jail sentence. And I can't help you with another dime. And you say that 5,000 could tide me over? 5,000 could swing it. You could establish credit once more, fill that government order, and you'd be in business again. Tom, I know you're in this for about 15,000, but couldn't you possibly? Not a dime, Niles. I haven't got it. I'd love to help. Lord knows I'd like to recoup what I've sunk into this deal, but I'm broke. Flat broke. Where, Tom? Where can I raise 5,000? I've tapped every source I had. I don't know, Niles. I just don't know. Then it's prison and ruin for me. The accountant, Tom Kelton, nodded. That's about the size of it, Niles. And 15 grand of my dough goes down the drain. Isn't there anybody, Tom? Anybody you know could lend you 5 grand? No one, Tom. Not a soul. And it was on that particular night that Niles Fairchild, facing the shame of business failure and a jail term, wandered out onto his windswept grounds and absently approached the faint-lit gardener's cottage. What can I do? Who can I turn to who would lend me $5,000? The stars went cold, and the moon was cold, and the trees grunted and swayed, whispering with the wind, and Niles Fairchild passed old Jasper's dingy cottage and looked through the uncurtained window, and he saw the old man counting the neat stack of wrinkled bills. Good Lord! Old Jasper started at the heavy knocking echoed through his cabin. Who could that be this time of night? Who would visit him? A lowly gardener? He hid the money hastily. Just a minute. Who is it? It's me, Jasper. Mr. Fairchild. The old man swung the door wide. Mr. Fairchild smiled down at him. I come to talk to you about the wages I owe you, Jasper. May I come in? Of course, Mr. Fairchild. Please come in. Niles Fairchild's glance darted around the dimly lit cottage. Money was gone, hidden. He sat down. He weighed his words carefully. I'm in a bit of trouble, Jasper. Financial trouble. I won't go into it because it's a little too complicated for you to understand, but, well, I can't pay you this month. Can't pay me, Mr. Fairchild, but, in fact, Jasper, I face bankruptcy, ruin, and a possible jail sentence if I don't raise 5 grand in the next few days. $5 grand? That's a lot of money. Lend it to me, Jasper. I beg of you. I know you have it. I saw you counting it. Please lend it to me. No, no! It was saved me, Jasper. You'll get it back, all of it, I swear. No, I saved all my life to get that money. I won't give it up now. I'm old. I'll be needing it soon. For what? What would an old man want with that kind of money? A funeral, Mr. Fairchild. A dignified funeral with flowers and silver casket and pallbearers and a sermon and organ music. I saved all my life for my funeral. My God, man, what good is a big funeral to you after you're dead? You don't understand, Mr. Fairchild. You couldn't. But I will remember my father's funeral and my mother's funeral. Well, Jasper went to the window and pointed out into the howling night. My father was a gardener here before me. He never had any money. Never could save any. When my mother died, she was buried out there. Far across the Fairchild estate, the wind tossed leaves against the stately marble edifice. The Fairchild family crypt had spun around and skipped over shabby graves in a simple little cemetery beside it. Out there, in your private potter's field, your servant's cemetery. Old Jasper's voice was sad, like a child who cried too loud and too long. I remember how they came to this cottage and lifted her from the bed and dumped her in a pine box and hauled it out there and dropped it in a yawning hole and filled it up and it was all over. Simple, quick, nothing. And I remember how I stood there and watched them shovel the soft earth upon my mother's coffin, and how I swore that I would never let it happen to my father when his time came. I was 12 years old then. I started to save. When I was 18, I ran enough errands and did enough odd jobs to amass a huge sum of $106. And this is my father found one night, and went out, got drunk, and was robbed and murdered. And so he too was put in a plain pine box and dropped in a hole out there and covered up with no pomp, no care, only the sobbing of an 18-year-old son. Your father was good enough to give my father's job. I became the gardener, and one day your father died. You were only a boy. What a funeral he had. The coffin lying in state, the flowers. Hundreds of people coming to my house, passing the coffin and shedding tears upon it. And then the sermon, his eulogy, the organ music. The dignity and glorious solemnity of it all. The pallbearers with their white gloves carrying the solid silver casket out to the marble family crypt, the organ music drifting over the grounds, the mourners following, and I off to the side thinking of my mother and father's funerals. And so I saved, Mr. Fairchild. I saved for a decent funeral of my own, and I won't give it up, not to you, not to anybody. No, Mr. Fairchild, I won't lend you my money. I won't. I understand, Jasper. I'm sorry. It was much later on that particular night that two figures moved across the Fairchild estate to the gardener's cottage. Two figures that whispered softly. No one knows he has the money. He's old. It'll look like a heart attack. And we'll be off the hook. You'll be able to straighten things out, and I'll be able to recoup my 15 grand. The pillow came crashing down on old Jasper's face, snuffing out the air, snuffing out his life. He's dead. I got the money. Let's go. And so, like his father and mother before him, his death certificate signed by a disinterested doctor that had been hastily summoned, old Joseph was placed in a simple pine box, carried out to the servant plot, and buried without flowers, without music, without pomp or dignity, and Miles Fairchild and Tom Kelton stood by, smiling. And in the days that followed, Miles Fairchild was able to reestablish his credit, fill the government order, and start the long climb back up the financial success ladder. One night, months later, that's it, Niles, the first black ink entry. You're all clear. I came over tonight to show it to you. I knew you'd be thrilled. I am, Tom, thanks. How about a drink in celebration? Outside the Fairchild mansion, out in the dismal, unpretentious servant cemetery, below the sparsely glassed mounds, something stirred, something pushing upward, crumbling the surface of its recently tamped down grave. Inside, the two men drank. Tom Kelton turned to go. Good night, Niles. Night, Tom. The thing stumbled across the lawn, tottering in the wind, lifting its maggot-covered head, listening. See you in the morning. Sure thing. Niles Fairchild closed the door behind Tom Kelton and returned to the library. As he opened the door, the stench of rotted flesh and grave slime seared his nostrils. What the? Who's in there? Who? Oh, Lord, no! The thing moved from the shadows into the light. Niles Fairchild saw the crawling, decaying corpse, saw the bits of dead flesh falling away, the whitening bone protruding through. And then Niles Fairchild screamed. The police, summoned by the servants, found the beaten, bloody body of Niles Fairchild lying on the library floor. Mr. Kelton saw him last. Mr. Kelton did it. Tom Kelton was arrested. He had no defense. He'd been there. He didn't know about the little grave out in the servant cemetery that had opened and closed that night. The same little grave that opened once more before the night Niles Fairchild closed coffin funeral services were held, opening, yawning to erupt the thing. The thing tottered across the ground, into the house, to the solid silver coffin, pushed open the lid, and carried the body of Niles Fairchild back to the servant cemetery, to the open grave, and dropped it in. The next day the mourners gathered. The flowers filled the mansion room with a sweet scent. The organ music drifted through the house. The eulogy was spoken. The pallbearers lifted the solid silver coffin. The remains of old Jasper Milligan Gardner were carried out and laid to rest in the marble crypt.
Hee hee, so Jasper got the funeral he always wanted. He was so happy he didn't even mind that every time they mentioned the dear departed, they referred to him as Niles. As for Tom Kelton, well, he's still doing accounting work. Accounting with chalk marks on his cell walls and days left till he has to sit in the hot seat. Heh, bye now. We'll see you on my mag to haunt the theater.
Thanks for haunting SL Tonight Studio. Happy Halloween, you.